Everyone, I'm Marine, and I will be pretty much hosting the National No One Eats Alone Day presentation. So before we officially begin, we'll go around in an icebreaker just to get everyone rolling in on the ground.
What is your favorite emoji?
My favorite emoji is the laughing one.
So we have the laughing face emoji, the upside down smile, another laughing face emoji, a devil mask emoji. Seems the laughing face emoji is pretty popular. The throwing up emoji. Very cool. All right, we can move on.
Our agenda for today, we will take a quiz as a group and then we'll review our results and then share some tips. Activity 1 is online communication. Basically, we will go around asking these questions and you can either put it in the chat, you could raise your hand. When someone asks, "What are you doing?" Does this mean I'm mad at you because you aren't doing what you're supposed to? I'm curious about what you're doing, or C, I'm annoyed about what you may or may not be doing. Okay, we have a lot of B's, and then we have it depends on the situation. It depends on the context. I agree with Jennifer, who said that it depends on the situation. Yeah, it could either be a simple question, let's not read too much into it, or it could depend on the situation. When someone says, "Yeah, sure," or "Yeah, sure," does this mean A, I'm annoyed and don't actually want to do that? B, I would love to, that sounds great. Or C, I'm indifferent, I'm not for it or against it, but I'll do it. A lot of people are going with C. Okay, C and B. This is based on what the conversation is about. Still depends on the situation. C, C, B, and C. Okay, no one thinks it's the person being annoyed. I would actually argue it could actually be A too. So yeah, it really does depend on the tone and the way that you're delivering your message. If someone says, "Hey, I need to talk to you," does this mean A, I'm upset about something that you did? B, I have exciting ideas that I want to share with you? Or C, I'm feeling upset and I need some emotional support? Even with this too, I would think that it has a lot to do with the way that you're delivering what you're saying. I'm okay. Does this mean A, I'm actually doing pretty well right now? Everything in my life is pretty steady. B, I'm not doing very well, but I don't know how to tell you that. Or C, I'm upset, but I don't want to talk about it. Right, it could mean all of them. A lot of these are very subjective. Lastly, when someone says, "Sounds good," do they mean that's a great idea, I totally agree? B, yeah, okay, I can do that? C, I don't really agree, but I don't want to create conflict. That was just an activity to kind of get you into the thought process of thinking how what one's tone could affect your communication, or how just communication in general can differ on the way that you're delivering your message. So what nonverbal cues do you use when you communicate in person to convey the meaning of what you're trying to say? Because clearly words aren't always that useful, right? Facial expressions, yes, that's a very good one. Body language and tone, exactly. Tonality, the way that you're perceiving, the way that you're showing how assertive you are, or it all depends on your hand movements. That's a big one too. Yeah. And eye contact, definitely. All of these help you deliver your personality into a conversation. Your gestures. I mean, I know people spend thousands of dollars taking courses on how to present themselves and how to have a certain type of body language, or how to obtain a certain kind of tone, how to be more assertive. In fact, when you're going into a profession like business, you are often taught how to manage people, and within that course you're taught communication skills and all of these things, and by very prestigious universities, in fact. So people are actually emotion or prior conversation. Yes, certain actions, the speed at which you're speaking, definitely. Or are you unable to use these nonverbal cues online? How can this lead to miscommunication and misunderstanding? The way a person texts. I think when you're reading something that a person writes, you can often confuse it. You don't always get the tone of what they said or how they were meaning to deliver it.
When I think about nonverbal like communication whenever texting, I find it quite hard because sometimes I might be really excited about something, but like using emojis all the time isn't that easy. And I feel like when you're like in front of a person, it's much more easier to convey your message than when you're not, because sometimes you might like type a message in all caps because you're excited, but then somebody might interpret it in a different type of way.
Exactly. There is no face-to-face contact, which can't express what you mean. You ever just text the laughing out loud emoji, and in reality, you're not even laughing. You can't hear or see the person you're reading, so you have to look at the words. And as we saw with the warm-up activity, words can be interpreted differently and lead to miscommunication.
I feel like the way they wrote the text, it just sounded very like awkward and weird.
That's one of the biggest things. You can't convey sarcasm. Like, you can say something in a very sarcastic tone, and when the person replies with "thank you" or "oh, you're very nice," like it gets confusing, definitely. Is there ever a time when you have misunderstood someone when communicating online? How does this happen during online school or classes? So I think we touched upon the first question a little bit. Has it happened during school or online classes? You were trying to convey something in a certain way, but it was perceived or interpreted by the other person in a certain way? Perhaps a teacher, a friend. Jaren said yes. And you can't always be that expressive, or I don't know, like it's hard to even convey when you are like in the chat and stuff, like when you're texting your teacher privately. Some teachers usually just skim through what you said because they're of course teaching at the same time. They're looking at this public chat, and when you private text them, they have to like take a second to stop and realize what you had said. The whole purpose of this presentation is to get you involved. You guys should have a takeaway from this. If you want to interject, say a story in the middle, feel free to do so. When we communicate online, we can't use the same nonverbal cues that we normally can to communicate our tone or meaning. At the beginning of this, we chose emojis, and we just reviewed with an activity how vastly difficult communication can be online. Some strategies or verbal cues that we can use online to show our tone and make our communication more effective are emojis, more specific wording, and tone tags. Activity 2, stress test. This is something that you guys will have to keep a track of, so feel free to put it in the chat. Feel free to unmute if you want to, but on like a piece of paper, on your phone, on your notepad, just choose a number between 1 and 4 based on the keys in the next slide to indicate how often you feel the symptoms of the things that I'm about to present to you. Tally them up, and then you're going to add them and then see the results by the end. And then let's actually share out those results as well. And I'll keep a tally as well because it's a cool activity. Write a 4 if the answer to that particular thing is always. If it's often, then it's 3. If it's sometimes, it's 2, and then the never is 1. I have problems falling asleep or staying asleep. Are there any tips that you guys use to try and fall asleep? I listen to music. I do too. Stay away from electronics for at least an hour before bed. That's some willpower. Dream. If you have deep insomnia like me, my teachers recommend melatonin. Breathing technique. I'm uptight and cannot seem to relax. Or O's, 4s. 2s, 3. I get angry if things don't go my way. Oh, you guys never get angry? Or sometimes get angry? I get angry at myself, but I can never get angry at anyone, no matter how much they do me wrong. I have difficulty concentrating. I know a lot of us said meditation is hard.
Since we did get like talking about concentration, I think another thing that has to do with that is focus and meditation, because like concentrating is like the hardest thing. Even meditating is easy, but like concentration, I don't know why, but like it's so hard. What do you think?
Concentrating is hard. I have a hard time finding fun things to do. We have 4s and 2s.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's kind of the same thing every day because when I finish my classes, I don't really know what to do. Like, I can't really do anything anymore because ever since COVID started, I've pretty much done everything there is to do in my house, and it's been getting kind of repetitive. And like, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I feel like video games are kind of getting boring now because I can't see my friends. I can't play soccer. And I mean, like, the not playing soccer part really hit me hard because I was in a team before COVID and we were in the playoffs, and all of a sudden, like, it all shut down and we were so excited. We were on a roll and everything, but it all shut down at like the worst time. So yeah.
I hope we'll get back to the normal time soon. And I don't think it's an unpopular opinion saying video games are getting boring. I know TV is getting boring for me. Reading is getting bored. We started cooking at first, like my family, we started making stuff, and now we're kind of putting off of that as well. Find a hobby or a skill that you want to learn. Well, let's actually look for solutions, right? If you have a hard time finding fun things to do, I know it's a bummer you can't really play sports, but I'm not gonna encourage you to go out and play sports. I don't really know how, like, what the situation in your community is like, but maybe there are fun, like you couldn't have possibly tried everything. Oh, you guys are in the learning process. If you know what you're actually interested in, or if you aren't, there's this website called Coursera. So you can go on there and you can take college courses from actual colleges. Like, you can audit them for free, or you can pay for a certificate, and you can learn things, learn how to code, learn a new language. I feel tired during the day. We have a lot of 4s. I worry a lot about things going on in my life. We have 4. There should be a 5. Happiness apparently doesn't come from grades or money or materialistic things. I have health problems because I work too hard. 2.5. I feel tired during the day. Bye. I use alcohol, cigarettes, caffeine, or drugs to cope with stress. If the answer is not caffeine, I don't expect, okay, never. 0. I like the answers that I'm getting. I'm okay with you guys having coffee. It's just the alcohol, cigarettes, and drugs part. I laugh or smile less than I used to. I feel sad or disappointed often. Oh, I like to be in control. I don't have enough time for all the things in my life. I have a habit of clenching my fists, cracking my knuckles, twirling my hair, or tapping my fingers. So that was the end of the questions. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Now add up all your points. If you have under 21, low stress, 21 to 30 is medium stress, and then 31 plus is high stress. So stress is a normal reaction to the demands of life. When your brain perceives a threat, your body releases a burst of hormones to fuel your fight, flight, freeze response. And when the threat is gone, your body returns to normal. Coping with stress, activity 3. There are healthy and unhealthy ways of dealing with stress. The healthy ways to help reduce stress and relieve symptoms. Unhealthy ways of dealing with stress actually mask the symptoms and causes of stress, may introduce new stressors, and may increase the effects of stress in the future. Okay, so quick question. How do you guys manage stress? I listen to music or watch TV. These are some of the ways of releasing stress. I would highly encourage you guys to take a picture of this. Maybe try them out, see if it helps. Okay, unhealthy ways. Please don't do drugs or consume alcohol or do any of like caffeine. I know it's up there. Try to avoid it as much as possible. Smoking. People should work out their own mental health problems. Not true. When people have physical health concerns, they generally take some action and often go to doctors or seek some other kind of help for their problems. Mental illness is associated with changes in brain functioning and usually requires professional assistance. Because of the stigma surrounding mental illness, many people are reluctant to seek help. Once you have a mental illness, you have it for life. While it's true that most mental illnesses are lifelong, they're often episodic, which means that the symptoms are not always present. Just like people who live with chronic physical illness like arthritis and asthma, people with mental illness can, when the illness is managed, live positive and productive lives. Females are more likely to have a mental illness than males. Men and women are equally affected by mental illness in general, but women may experience higher rates of specific illnesses such as eating disorders and depression. Men have higher rates for some disorders such as alcoholism and ADHD. Some illnesses are relatively equally shared by men and women, like bipolar disorder. It may seem that women are more likely to have a mental illness than men, but this may be because women are more likely to seek help for mental and emotional difficulties and to share their concerns with friends that are men. Medication is the best treatment for mental illness. Okay, medication can be a very effective part of managing a mental illness, but it is by no means the only type of treatment or support that helps people recover. A wide range of appropriate interventions, including medication, counseling, social and recreational groups, self-help, holistic health, religious support, hospital care, exercise, and nutrition are options for helping people recover and stay well. The best approach is to have a combination of strategies that have been proven to be effective. People with a mental illness are generally violent and dangerous. People with mental illnesses are generally not more violent than the rest of the population. Mental illness plays no part in the majority of violent crimes committed in our society. In fact, a person with a mental illness is more likely to be a victim of violence than the perpetrator. The assumption that any and every mental illness carries with it an almost certain potential for violence has been proven wrong in many studies. Often, it is the misinterpretation by the media that leads to this false belief. Some illnesses are first diagnosed in childhood, but many more begin to appear during late teenage years and into early adulthood. You can tell by looking at people whether they have a mental illness. Sometimes if a person is experiencing symptoms of their mental illness, how they're feeling, thinking, and behaving may be different from what is normal for them, but generally you cannot tell if a person has a mental illness based on his or her appearance. People with a mental illness are generally shy and quiet. There is no strong causal relationship between personality characteristics and a tendency to develop mental illness. Some mental disorders, however, such as depression, anxiety, and schizophrenia, can lead people to avoid or limit social contact. Mental illness only happens to certain kind of people. This is incorrect. Mental illness can happen to anyone. Most people will never be affected by mental illness. Statistics is that 1 in 5 people experience a mental illness at some point in their life. 17% of youth from 6 to 7 experience a mental health disorder. And that was actually the last question, guys. Thank you so much.